And the U.S. economy added 272,000 jobs for the month of May, beating economist expectations by a lot.
This morning, we are getting the latest jobs report coming out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics for the month of May. 272,000 jobs were added last month. That far exceeds the expected amount.
Better than expected, gang. 272,000 jobs created.
The May jobs report was released just moments ago, and it shows that the U.S. economy added 272,000 jobs last month, above what economists had expected.
A staggering 272,000 jobs were added last month, beating analyst predictions and signaling hopeful news for the economy this morning.
The U.S. added 272,000 jobs in May, far more than the 180,000 that was expected.
When we look at the strong job creation, 272,000 jobs in the month.
The economy under Joe Biden, in macroeconomic terms, is literally the best economy I've seen in my lifetime. So why is it not seeming to register with voters?
Well, the numbers don't lie, right? Things are great.
You have payroll jobs still coming in strong, even though there's an argument that they may be a bit overstated.
That was propagandists in the media talking about these so-called strong job numbers, followed by the Fed Chair Jerome Powell letting the truth out. Now, obviously, the propagandists in the media don't actually read this report or even look into it further than just reading their teleprompter. And the teleprompter is just going to say whatever the government numbers are or whatever narrative they're trying to push, which in this case is that the country added 272,000 jobs, and this is supposed to be a sign that the economy is improving. But we're not going to just accept the government numbers and call it a day. If you take a deeper look at these numbers, they are anything but positive. The first thing I want to say is you should always take a look at job numbers a few months down the road after these supposed numbers come out. They almost always are adjusted down when it comes to the projections versus the actual numbers. And I don't mean the projections before, I mean the estimates that they cite as real numbers. But politicians know how the media cycle works, and they know that the revisions will be reported on far less than the original numbers. And the Biden administration exploits this very often. As far as the May jobs report, the easiest number to debunk is the 272,000 jobs added. It is true that 272,000 jobs were added to the payrolls around the country. And again, I'm not saying that number is real. It almost certainly will be revised down the road. But I'm saying it is a true statement according to their own numbers to cite that 272,000. However, that number includes multiple job holders. And if you take those numbers out of the equation, the actual number of employed workers goes down by 408,000. Which is why you're seeing media reporting on how this is such a great jobs number month, but that somehow the unemployment number went up. It's directly related to this multiple job holder number. In addition to the birth-death adjustment, which is another little propaganda game that they play, which essentially comes down to an assumption made by probably leftist bureaucrats, estimating the amount of businesses that were either created or closed in a given time period. I refer to this as the Obama economy. It was very similar when he was president, where they would announce these job numbers, but if you took out the multiple job holders, they were actually really bad numbers. So obviously it completely changes the outlook on the economy if you're talking about part-time jobs versus full-time jobs. The other aspect of this jobs report is American-born workers versus foreign-born workers. Over the past 5 or 6 years, almost all of the job growth can be credited to foreign-born workers, which was cited by Jerome Powell in his comments about the report.
We've seen labor force supply come up quite a bit through immigration and through recovering participation. That's ongoing mostly now through the immigration channel.
Regardless of the things I just mentioned, Powell still tried to say that this was a strong jobs report. However, as you saw in the beginning, even he is saying that the jobs report is overstated.
You noted the labor market is now in many ways back to where it was before the pandemic. I wondered if you could comment on how officials are viewing that. So do you think that there still needs to be more cooling in the labor market to bring inflation all the way down to 2%? Or is there any sense that maybe the labor market is more vulnerable now to higher rates now that many of those imbalances have eased?
Sure. So by so many measures, the labor market was kind of overheated 2 years ago. And we've seen it gradually move back into much better balance between supply and demand. So what have we seen? We've seen labor force supply come up quite a bit through immigration and through recovering participation. That's ongoing mostly now through the immigration channel, but still we've had some increases in prime age labor force. In terms of on the demand side, we've seen quits moving down. We've seen job openings moving down. We've seen wage increases moving from very, very high levels a couple of years ago back down to more sustainable levels. We have seen unemployment creep up now 0.6 over the course of a year or so, very, very gradually. So you put all that together, what you have is still low unemployment, still 4% unemployment, historically low. But it's moved up a little bit, it's softened a bit, and you know, that's an important statistic. But more than that, you've got strong job creation. You have payroll jobs still coming in strong, even though there's an argument that they may be a bit overstated, but still, they're strong. So that's what we see. We watch the labor market, of course, and the economy as a whole, but the labor market very carefully, and that's what we see. We see gradual cooling, gradual moving toward better balance. We're monitoring it carefully for signs of something more than that, but we really don't see that.
As a quick follow-up, the surveys that make up the jobs report are showing different tales. There's been some divergence, especially we saw in the last report that we got on Friday. So how do you interpret that, and how does it change your view on the labor market?
So sometimes you can't reconcile the differences. You just have to look at it and try to understand. And that's why it always makes sense to look at a series, in 3, 6, and 12 months of things rather than just one report. But you're right to point to the last report where there were job losses in the household survey, job gains, big job gains in the establishment survey. So, we're left with ambiguous results, and we have to deal with that uncertainty around data. Nonetheless, the overall picture is one of a strong and gradually cooling, gradually rebalancing labor market. Job openings, while they've come way down, are still, greater than the number of unemployed people. The jobs workers gap is still a significantly positive number, greater than it was before the pandemic. So overall, we're looking at what is still a very strong labor market, but not the superheated labor market of 2 years ago or even 1 year ago.
I think that all government is a waste of taxpayer money.